I'm proud to announce our next speaker, Dr. Rev.
Thank you. It's an honor to get announced by someone who the world already forgot existed, and I'm happy to be here. My name's Dr. Rav, and I'm most known for my work on diagnosing the famous Yasuo syndrome. A common but very serious disorder that actually affects the people around the one afflicted, more than the one afflicted himself. My full work on that topic is available online for free and has become the recommended video that doctors around the world show alcoholic hard drug addict parents when they are considering starting a family. But today I'm going to talk about a more general disease, one that impacts nearly every one of us here today. New champion syndrome, which to the non-league lay person can best be classified as the human urge to play with the newest toy available for the first time, in a way that makes everyone around miserable and contemplating death. This has been seen to statistically increase ATG, or average time to get into a game, while significantly decreasing ATEIM, average time before everyone else is miserable. This is due to the new champ being banned or picked in every lobby, and some womb disco dancing with a coat hanger crybaby dodging every time until he gets his turn to play with a new toy. By the time players get into a game, everyone is already saltier than the pH levels of a dolphin's vagina, which results in staggeringly low levels of enjoyment. Every game becomes a 4v5 because he who has the new toy quickly shows that they have no idea how the hell to play with it, and become more concerned with figuring out how to break it instead of focusing on the true goal in all our lives: getting that dank LP. Now I have been risking everything. Can you guys shut the f*** up? I already said there's no cure for what you have.
No cure for fools.
Anyways, I have been risking my own well-being to see this disease firsthand by playing solo queue. That's right, by playing ranked league by myself, and today I'm proud to share my experiences in the wild with one of them afflicted. And thus I just want to conclude by asking you to subscribe, as it's a free way to fund my future research. Alright, so when I have to venture into the field myself, I like to play pop star Miss Fortune, because my colleagues in the plastic surgery department have done commendable work here, and I admittedly enjoy watching those things bounce a bit. But I immediately know this will be a challenge, as their team support is trying to turn me diabetic by whipping a truffle at my tits every time I even look at the wave. This is leading to them having more pressure than anything I've seen outside of Gragas's arteries, so naturally they age faster than us. And while I'm not keen on taking such a disadvantageous approach to murder, this Nico is clearly testing in the bottom 5th percentile of intelligence, so all I can do is commit to make it an even trade. Let's put the shit stain under the microscope for some introductions. You can already see the dumb dog has bought a skin for this new champ, apparently before he has even learned what its abilities do, as more dashes come out than a subtraction equation revealing it's gay, until the level 3 limit testing comes to a fatal conclusion. That said, it's definitely common for patients of this disorder to think that the best way for them to deal with the enemy that they have spoon-fed is to continue picking fights with it, despite exhibiting the accuracy of a burnt toaster strudel, which typically results in a sudden loss of summoner spells, creating a situation where medical professionals need to be on high alert, because at any given time the dumb shit may abandon doctor's orders to stay the fuck away from Professor Akali and his clickbait, or else it could be terminal. I, on the other hand, am trying to find out if there's an incubator on this goddamn planet advanced enough to keep this dumb lizard alive, but thankfully my brief residency in the psych department taught me that Ezreals are little greedy goblins, so I, as doctors say, pop his pussy and then chase the floating candied clock away. Back to top lane, and the Akali monster has used those 2 early game freebies to metastasize into something that requires such little skill to execute correctly she could be called a wisdom tooth operation. We joke, dentists are totally real doctors too. And thus this creates a situation where triggering your ult hoping it will do something to save your dumb ass is unfortunately not the recommended course of prevention here. I've went down to the labs and weaponized a sinus infection, as I knew if I could get him to infect the blonde boy who looks like Ellen DeGeneres, we could potentially turn it into a terminal illness. The candy-slinging fuckwad is apparently trained in life-saving medicine, but I know exactly how to override that amateur hour bullshit. I then go back and tend to the Rift NICU babies, make sure they are strong enough to throw shit at a statue one day, as Zach is flaming me without realizing that I'm fully educated on cellular division and confident that he would have survived that. That said, out of nowhere a drooling dog comes down, and it doesn't take a doctor to know that that's rabies, plain and simple, so I let the sinus infection fuck with it as I quarantine the area from afar. This opens up a bit of a chase with the goal of putting that candy clock back in base, and the procedure you are about to see is known to cause what's known in the scientific community as a gamergasm. Heading back to the Halo 2 needler dog up top, who now just wants to see what his W does, even if it lands him in a shitstorm of steak knives with absolutely zero plan on how he can come out on top. So to the surprise of absolutely no one, he gets lit on fire and left running with his Halo 2 tail tucked between his legs. But here's the thing. A normal player with a functioning cerebral cortex will know not to get in a burst off against the spinning shitter herself, but someone with new champ syndrome quite frankly doesn't give a fuck because he heard his champ has an execute button, he just doesn't know which one it is. I on the other hand would like to get compensated for taking a plate off of this tower, but my bot lane resident has to slip out to rip a fat fart, leaving me in a situation where my odds of survival aren't optimal, but I stay confident in the procedure I was taught known as stand still right clicking, and we are lucky to have made it through that operation. Now fuckface is now roaming bot to show everyone how a solo laner can somehow be behind everyone else and level at this point as she chugs her G fuel and then heads into a situation that unfortunately could have been prevented with a bit of social distancing.
I told you guys.
Literally shut up dude. And unfortunately for the dumb dog and her babies, flashing does not do damage, so her contribution to this was not notable. At this point I want to show firsthand how new champ syndrome has a stronger effect on those around the afflicted person, as you see one dog complaining about another while I am continuing to inform this Ezreal that while he may not need a map, he will need a morgue. Dantes comes running in like I have a naked stuffed animal lying around, so I need to finish up my work quickly so that I can be ready to accommodate the snot rocket in his mission of grabbing each of those shitters and making them kiss. I then throw a few laxatives up into the sky to slow the steed, and then I send him back to base with a prescription for some ibuprofen to deal with the swelling. I then look at Zach and say, okay, today you are going to be my nurse. You will go in there, do 90% of the work, and then I will stop in as the doctor at the very end, tell them to rest, drink water, don't be a pussy, and collect the fat paycheck. Our new champ syndrome ridden shit stain on the other hand is demonstrating the dangers of being outside with such severe symptoms as being 3 entire levels down from her lane mate and single-handedly making her legendary not even 13 minutes into the game. Now when talking about things like cancer, the term metastasize means to spread to other sites of the body, but with this sickness it means to spread to other lanes on the rift, and this is when things typically start to become untreatable as everyone else starts to suffer for this mouth breather handing out cash like a malfunctioning ATM. This opens up an opportunity for us to test a lab creation where we injected lethal doses of prime energy drink into a scuttle crab's anus, and typically the sight of this parade would have a player running in fear, but I noted that this case of new champ syndrome was progressing more rapidly than even I could have predicted. I now think it would be fun to play a quick game of surprise you a dead bitch, but like anything else the experience gets ruined by having too much mucus involved. And I have to say, shoving steroids onto a petri dish growing a sinus infection does sometimes have unintended side effects, like the dude flinging into base like he's never seen a kill before, creating a situation where our test subject maybe actually earn herself a kill. This is surprisingly a very bad thing for the progression of the patient. You see, Riot designs every new champion optimized for something the business side of hospitals call skin sales. That means the second they get even the tiniest bit of gold, they will immediately have the capabilities to take an utter shit on any player on your team who isn't properly staffed in the intelligence department to handle such an unknown wave of damage from an otherwise feeding piece of shit. Where this becomes a problem is that there are other people on the rift who shouldn't be approached in that manner. For example, in this game I was almost making more money off of their bot laners than my fake plastic tits were pulling in from the good ol' OF. This means that when she loses all sense of understanding on how this game works and just starts charging at people regardless of their fedness levels according to publicly posted blood tests, they will fail miserably. They will think that killing this tie-dyed lizard who has proven to fall over from a strong gust of wind at this point means they can hold their own with anyone else. But any encounter that I have with them goes much different than what they'd expect, and in this case what I expected too. You see, I stated at the beginning of this field research that I opted into playing this chick because of her womanly curves, her plastic bosom, and her fat badonkadonk, but in this particular case I was exhibiting the symptoms of the male ailment known as blue balls. That said, I remained confident in my field of study that symptoms of her disorder would eventually cure those of mine, and that's exactly what happened. We then teamed up to send Dantes back to Korea, which then prompted a situation that required a deeper understanding of gastroenterology. You see, my colleagues wanted to quote-unquote stick it up their asses, but what they failed to realize was the most optimal way to do that is to go around the back and blast full firepower from that angle instead, and that is why I make the big bucks. Now I'd like to direct your attention to Exhibit 69 for an example of why Nafiri getting a kill is a bad idea, because she now thinks attempting things like this is a good idea. I'm feeling desperate in crafting a treatment plan, so I attempt the psychological bullying effect, as this has been seen to sometimes evoke enough shame in the patient to stop such behaviors, but in this case the damage was done. No horse was going to extract the red buffs in my presence, and I personally felt like it was unsafe for others to exist in the presence of that illness as well, so I had to call the herd in order to stop the spread, cut down some trees in the forest to stop the fire type of deal. So after a performance where this person spent more time dead in base than out playing the game, I wanted to warn you of the dangers of this syndrome and remind you once again that the best way to prevent getting it yourself is to subscribe to my channel. Dr. Rav out.